One of the things that I really like about being a part of a church like ours is that you can ask bigger questions and explore topics that are behind the scenes. Especially at Christmas time, I think it's really important because there's so much going on in our Christmas story and in our modern Christmas traditions. For instance, putting lights in trees like this. They don't show up right now very well, but in the mornings, it's glorious. And every year, I read 2 books in December. One is called The Physics of Christmas, from the aerodynamics of reindeer to the thermodynamics of turkey. And I also read a book called The First Christmas by Crossan and Borg. I'm just fascinated with how things work. And, our Christmas stories are pretty interesting. There's a lot going on in them that may not be apparent at first. It's the same with our contemporary Christmas traditions. Like, someone might say, wait a minute, why do we cut down trees and drag them inside and then take lights and drag them outside? I heard Jim Gaffigan do a bit on that one time. And when we talk about December 25th, it's interesting because Jesus certainly wasn't born on December 25th. In fact, if you read the Christmas story, he was born in the spring, right when the shepherds were out to flock, or out to pasture, had their flocks out to pasture. So it certainly isn't a winter story. And yet, over the years, that date was chosen for a very specific reason. And once certain decisions are made, then other things come alongside of it. Like, I love scenes of Mary and Joseph at the stable that's snow covered. And it's like, it's like a very European timeline, not set in the Middle East at all. But whatever, it's fine because these traditions are actually hybrids from the very beginning. This book that I'm inviting you to read with me this December, The First Christmas, talks about where some of the elements in our stories come from and what they were trying to do and say in their telling of this story. The other really interesting thing that has happened is that the 2 stories that we have, one in Matthew and one in Luke, have been amalgamated together and have become one story. So it's also going to be fun to talk about why Mark, the Gospel of Mark, which is the earliest gospel, has no Christmas story, no nativity. And the Gospel of John, which is the last to be written, has a very different cosmic sort of origin story. But Matthew and Luke were written to 2 different audiences, and that's why the details in their stories vary so widely at points. The reason I bring this up is because literally once a month, I run into somebody who has what I call the Santa Claus attitude, the problem. Which is, wait a minute, if there's no Santa, then Christmas isn't worth celebrating. And I say, oh, bah humbug, Scrooge, you gotta be kidding me. You're telling me that if it's because they're learning something new about the Bible and even like our Christmas stories, our origin story. And people have this attitude like, if it's not the way I was taught that it was, literally, it's not worth believing at all. I mean, literally, last month, it happens every month, but last month I was with a person who has been in ministry, a Christian minister, for 30 years, who has recently started learning new things about the Bible and basically says he doesn't believe anything anymore. And I'm like, dude, this all or nothing Santa Claus thing is ridiculous, because once you learn something new, for instance, that what you may have been told as a child about Santa Claus isn't the whole story, or maybe even the truest thing in the story, it doesn't diminish that Christmas is awesome and 100% worth celebrating. It's just, you gotta grow up a little bit. And I don't say that to be condescending or pejorative. I just mean we're called to have a childlike faith, not a childish faith. And so part of growing up in the faith is that you learn what's going on behind the story. And so that's what I would invite you to do. If you want to join me and get The First Christmas by Crossan and Borg, or if you just want to hear my daily reflections and be in conversation throughout this month, I think it's going to be a really worthwhile adventure for us, and it'll give us something to talk about as we go through the Advent season to get ready for this Christmas celebration, which is going to be a doozy this year. It's going to be a good one. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope that you will join along, email or comment with any questions, and I look forward to going on this exploratory adventure together.